around the world, whether you are listening to this on Facebook, whether you are listening to us on LinkedIn or on Instagram, YouTube, wherever you are. Listening back on the podcast, welcome to the Polgoff Show. It is, as always, wonderful to be here. I have an amazing guest today. This is an exciting episode. I was doing my prep for this call just before the weekend, and this guy is amazing. So you're going to want to listen to every single word of everything we're about to talk about. If you are looking for any kind of inspiration, if you are thinking of yourself as I'm just a physio, just running a physio business, and I'm just doing my thing, and I'm just doing my patients, but I really want to secretly do a lot more with my career. I want to be more of an entrepreneur. I want to travel. I want to get books licensed. I want to grow my clinic. I want to travel all over the world. I want to build a massive YouTube following, and I want to become something much bigger and much more impactful than just a physio, quote unquote. Then this is the interview for you. We're heading back to the UK. Obviously, we've got a huge event coming up in London, and Will Harlow is our guest today. He'll also be at PPM Live in London. We're going to be there June 7th, 8th, and 9th. And in the build up to that, we are shining a spotlight on some of the amazing success stories that are happening in and around Britain right now, because they're there. And as I said this on the last podcast, in Britain, we don't do a very good job of celebrating. We're always taught to keep our heads down, and we have to sort of, not really brag about anything, and we're not allowed to tell people how good we are, and we're not allowed to tell people how successful our businesses are. It's always just keep your head down, Paul, or keep your head down, Will, and everything will be fine. That's kind of the British Stoic mentality, which I think is, although I respect it, it's complete bullshit. So what I'm trying to do on this podcast is just, if you are in Britain, you are anywhere near the British Isles listening to these podcasts, it's a way of just inspiring you to prove to you that there are many, many people having a lot of success in Britain as a physio, sports injury clinic, osteopath, whatever type of injury or rehab practice that you run. There are people out there, not too far from you probably, who are doing significantly more than you would probably believe. And my attempt is to prove it to you and show more of the what we call titans of the UK physio profession, of which Will Harlow is definitely one. So check us out anyway. If you come into London, PPM Live UK, the seats are selling fast. We're going to have around about 100 people there. We're looking strong for around about 30 to 35 guests coming to PPM Live in London. Robbie Fowler is our guest speaker. He's going to talk about not just his days as the Liverpool and England footballer that most people know him for, but also how he grew a property portfolio. So there'll be a big emphasis on investing and thinking of yourself much bigger. How do you use your physio business to get really rich so that you can invest in property and get wealthy, which is ultimately the game. The point of business isn't to give yourself a job, it's to get rich from being in business. There's no point really otherwise. You might as well have stayed in the NHS. So we've got Robbie Fowler as the guest speaker. I've got Javino McLean, who runs one of the most inspirational fitness facilities you will ever see. Check him out at Javino McLean. I think it's at J7 Health on Instagram. He's our guest speaker. He works with adults, kids of all abilities. And you've got to watch his Instagram for inspiration. Make sure you check him out. And anyway, he's just built a really cool thing around himself and the gym and the facility. I thought it was a wonderful story that he has around himself and what he's achieved in his fitness facility, that I wanted him to share it with you guys at London as well. So two big speakers. There's going to be a big emphasis on marketing across the course of the weekend. Private Practice Marketer Live. We'll also talk about recruitment. Where do you find staff? How do you get them to achieve their KPIs? How do you get them to buy in to what you're trying to do? How do you get them to be more effective, more productive? So there'll be a big emphasis on the people side of things as well as marketing. I'm going to introduce to most of the audience something which will be relatively new. I don't see many physio businesses in the UK working and making money from what we call workshops, in-clinic educational classes. So we're going to have a big spotlight on that and how to make sure that you can get 10 to 15 new patients in your clinic every single month from a workshop, and just lots of really good stuff to share across the course of the weekend. The most important thing, I believe, for these events, you get to meet people like Will. There'll be 100 people who are there sharing the journey with you, happy to share their successes. So make sure you head over ppmliveuk.com. And we're also on the East Coast of America this summer as well. June 29th and 30th, we're in Jersey City. So if you're interested in coming, I have a scaling event taking place as well. polgoff.com/Jersey. So if you're on the East Coast, you're in the US, head over to Jersey, or if you're in or around London, British Isles, head over to PPM Live UK. We will be in London June 7th, 8th, and 9th. That is a 3-day event. So that's enough for the housekeeping for me. Will, welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you for having me, Paul. It's really surreal to be here because I've been a massive fan for ages. So, to have listened to this show for 8 years now, to be on it, is totally bizarre. So, yeah, having a bit of a weird moment.
It's a funny how many people tell me that they've started listening to this podcast 3 or 4 years ago, and I forget the depth of it. So I started to do podcasts. I think it was around about 2016 when podcasting wasn't what it is today, where everybody today has one or should have one or has built their own following, if you like. But back in 2016, the podcasting was like, wow, Paul's got a podcast, and I forget that's been going on for that long, and it's guys and girls were probably listening to that podcast at 18, 19 who are now 26, 27-year-old adults running their own business and kind of beginning that journey to running a successful business. So it's fantastic when I hear it, and it's a reminder to everybody that success isn't built in a day. Rome wasn't built in a day. There is a an empire to build, if you like, but it's one brick at a time, one podcast at a time, one email at a time, one recruitment process at a time, one clinic at a time, one book at a time, whatever it will be. And all of a sudden you look back and you think, gee, we did 650 episodes of a podcast, and hopefully it inspired somebody like you to kick off your career. So tell us, what was the introduction to the podcast then? Well, first of all, tell us where you're from. Just give everybody a little bit of an understanding. I always like to shine a spotlight on Britain and the towns in Britain. Tell us, try and explain to somebody in America where Farnham is.
Okay, so the journey started down south in Portsmouth, which is where I grew up, and actually on an island next to Portsmouth called Hayling Island, which is an island, but it's joined by a bridge, so you can drive on. The joke is always you need your passport to get on, but of course you don't. But then I moved
sounds
up
like
since
Canada.
there.
Is that Canada? Sounds a bit like Canada to America.
It's definitely smaller than Canada. But we moved up about 45 minutes north towards London to a beautiful county called Surrey, which is like leafy and green. It's sort of the type of place where the little villages are exactly what the Americans picture an English village to be like. So if you've ever seen The Holiday, the film with Cameron Diaz, that little village she went to, that's a Surrey village very close to us. So that's what it's like.
So everybody listening to this is thinking, great, but I know what their question is, whether they're in Australia, whether they're in America, Canada, all they're thinking is that near London? And that's all I ever get. All I ever get whenever I tell somebody I'm from Hartlepool, the response is always, is that near London? Oh, well, relative to like the size of the US, I guess Hartlepool to London is 4 hours away. So it's kind of close, right? So how close are you to London?
Well, to them, everything is close to London here.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're only about an hour away from, 45 minutes away from London. We can get to central London in 45 minutes on the train. So we're just southwest.
Fantastic. So we're over near, well, for relative purposes, for the rest of the world, I get where you are, but for the rest of the world, you're near London. Yeah. So we've got this clinic near London. Okay. So tell us, what was the journey? How did you get it started?
Oh, so going right back to day one, I mean, it all started really with your podcast, to be honest, Paul. So, I mean, unlike many of the people who listen to your podcast and join the group from there, I found you before I even had a business and before I even wanted to be a business owner. I had no clue when I first was introduced to you that this is the sort of thing I wanted to do. So I started as an NHS physio, and like many NHS physios, I just wanted, I wanted to grow into a great clinician. That was my goal.
Yeah.
I loved physio at uni and was really interested in it. I wanted to be able to help people and to become a great PT, essentially. But in the NHS, like I started to learn in there and got better, and then very quickly hit a ceiling. And I just remember being in a performance review in my second year, and they said, "You're doing really well. Just keep doing what you're doing for another 7 years, and then we can talk about a promotion." And
Ouch.
I remember leaving that office, and I just felt like the walls of that hospital were caving in around me because I just knew I didn't want to do the same thing for 7 years. That's never been me. And it was probably about a week or two after that, I was scrolling through Facebook, not really, knowing what I wanted to do with my life. And I saw your Facebook ad, and it was basically just a story of a guy in the northeast of England in a pretty economically challenged town who is charging 2 or 3 times the national average for a physio session. And something about the story just kind of resonated with me. I mean, you're a British guy and you're a physio, and you know you were into sport, and there was just a connection there. And I thought, I just want to find out more about this. Like, this is just interesting to me. And at the bottom of your post, there was a link to a podcast. Didn't even know what a podcast was at that
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
You were the first podcast I listened
yeah,
to, and just from day one, really, I was hooked. I just loved the content. I liked your view on life, and then you were talking about growing your business and how you'd scaled from 1 to 4 locations. And I started to think that actually sounds like, a great thing to do. That sounds like the sort of thing I might enjoy doing. And I knew that at that time I didn't want to stay in the NHS because, I was already burnt out and it was only a year into my career. So I kept listening. I kept sort of following you and taking notes. And eventually I built up the courage to set up a little business. I went part-time to begin with. So part-time NHS, part-time private, sort of eased in, very risk averse. So didn't want to take like the big jump. I basically felt like, because I'd been following your material for so long, I had your books, I felt like I almost had like a cheap head start. Like I was already well versed with the marketing stuff. It really resonated with me. That stuff I got really quickly. So I understood how to like choose a market, how to build a marketing message, how to narrow down who I wanted to treat and who I didn't want to treat, how to discover, the pain points of these people and what they essentially want, and then how to solve their problem. And really, the business grew quite quickly. Um, I would, I'd like to say for the story's sake that it took a while to get going, but really it happened quite quickly, and we built a reputation pretty fast. But it was just me. Like, I was the guy. I was doing all the treatment. My partner Brian, he came and helped me on the front desk around 2020. So essentially, I was just a solo practitioner, and I sort of went into a 2-year period where I was fully booked all the time. I was seeing, 50, 55 patients a week, working 60, 65, 70 hours treating patients, plus starting a YouTube channel and doing all the things, and was on the verge of a bit of a burnout. And I was like, I knew something needed to change. I knew I needed to bring people into the business, but I was terrified to do it. And I stayed that way for a little while. And it wasn't until I came to one of the events in London that really I developed the courage and sort of the know-how to hire and really get serious about growing a team and a business. Because when it's just you,
yeah.
it is a business, but it's not scalable. And I mean, that was a huge push for me. It was so helpful to kind of get my thoughts confirmed. I mean, I came in thinking I needed to hire, and I left saying I have to hire. I know I
Yeah,
need to hire now.
yeah, yeah.
You essentially told me that that's what I need to do.
Yeah, it's because we've seen it in the success of how businesses are successful and how people are successful. There's actually nothing mysterious to it. Once you understand it, it's very simple, but it's not easy, right? That's the big thing. It's simple on how to scale and grow a business. It just isn't easy, and a lot of it. I want to take you back to the conversation about the NHS and working in the National Health Service. And what I think I absolutely love, as I close my eyes and I think about, I see Nash, I see Steve McLean, I see Gav, I see all of the guys and like Lindsay and Jimmy and everybody that like this community that we've built now over the years. And I could reel off dozens and dozens of names in the UK, and I've got again hundreds in the US. I close my eyes and I think about you guys and working with you. There is something different about you, right? That obviously we're kindred spirits, because I think you were one of, if I take you back to that conversation, in 7 years, you'll get a promotion. Something inside of you went, fuck this. I'm better than this, right? There's not a chance I'm putting up with this shit for the next 7 years of my life, right? And not better as in you're a better person. It's that you want better and you want more for yourself. And in that respect, if you like, you want to do more things and you want to go more places and you're not willing to accept the status quo. But 99 other physios got that same conversation at that point in or around your town, who were told, here's a 2% pay rise, go away, wait 7 years, and then you might get from 30 grand a year to 35 grand a year, right? Or 30 grand a year to 40. And you think, fuck, all my Christmases have come at once. Do you know what I mean? Like, wonderful. That's a life-changing amount of money, right? And I'm not being disrespectful. I'm sure it is a reason, it's definitely going to help your life, but it ain't changing your life, right? And the thing that I'm getting, the reward versus the thing that I have to give up, the two are, they just don't even get close to marrying up, if you like, as to being worth it. What intrigues me and what I love is that you've got that inside of you where you go, enough's enough. I'm out. I'm going to go do something different. I'm going to take a more risky path, a rocky road, a path fraught with strife and risk and worry and doubt and fear and everybody questioning what I'm doing, but I'm going to go do it anyway. And I think that's what makes people like you just so unique and so special. And I think that's the bit that you have to understand as an entrepreneur. That is the difference with you, that you are wired differently in terms of the risk that you take and the stress that you can handle and the doubt and the fear and all of these other things which other people can't. And whenever those moments, which I'm sure do happen to you and they still happen to me, whenever you have those moments, that's actually the bit I call upon. It's like, I am wired differently. I do think differently, and I am able to deal with all of this shit. And that's why people are in the NHS for 30 years and they're miserable as shit, and candidly they have to go on strike to get a 2% pay rise. Like, but they've chose that, and it's a brutal thing to say, but they've chose that way of they've chose that way of living, if you like. And the second thing, you have grasped before you even started the business what most people in business for 40 years never understand: the most basic of marketing message to the right person at the right time, who my audience is, what I need to say, that I'm not building a physio clinic for everybody. It's for a specific group of people, whether it's 40-year-olds or 50-year-olds with back pain or with knee pain or whatever it will be. If you grasp that, you can build your business from there. It's the rock solid foundation, if you like, that you have to be able to build your business on. And the last thing I'm going to say, if you look at what you said there in the beginning, you're almost a little bit terrified, right? When you first start, you're terrified to recruit, you're terrified to get going. I think as a business owner, we spend most of our lives terrified to start, terrified what to charge, terrified to hire, terrified to scale, terrified to tell the wife or the husband what we're doing, terrified to tell our parents we're quitting our jobs. We're terrified, but we do it anyway. Where you're at now then, people, talk to us about the people situation and the challenges that you've overcome.
Yeah, so I've got quite a unique business, which I'm sure we'll touch on, where essentially we're a business split in two. So I've got the physical location, which is a physio clinic where there's 4 of us. It's myself, another physio, and 2 people who run the customer service department. I call it customer service or customer success.
Yeah.
And then we have a second aspect of the business, which essentially is a media business now, which is the YouTube channel and the book and the online program, which is forthcoming. And we've got 2 extra staff who help me with that. So there are 6 of us total. And I mean, most of those people we've picked up in the last year as the business has grown and, new opportunities have come. But as I said, we're a strange business. Only about 35% of our revenue comes from patients.
Yep.
And 65 now is coming from the media side of things and the other things we've got going on too. So it's a very diversified business with multi-facets. And I mean, I've got a great team. We're very lean. We're a lean team.
Yep.
But the people who work for us, they really pull their weight and they do a great job. So they've really, really helped.
Tell us about your physio business to start with. We'll move into the media business, which is incredible story. Tell us about the physio business. What's the model? What do you charge? What's your I'm a client, I arrive into your world. What happens to me? Tell me a little bit about who I might be. Is there a specific patient? What are you going to charge me? Do I get packages or one-offs? What else have you got to sell me? Just tell me a little bit about your kind of the world that I would be entering in Will's clinic.
We're very unique again in that we exclusively market to and treat people over the age of 50. So we actively repel anyone under the age of 50 to make it a better place to be for people over 50.
So we're very special. So here's a question. Have you ever had anybody age 49 email you and say, will you take me on?
We sometimes get that, and we have a little team discussion. We're like, is this person a good fit? And we seriously. So
I'm laughing because I've got one to share with you. I've got a story to share with you. You tell me yours.
We get people emailing all the time being like, I'm 49, will you still take me? And it's like, well, it depends on the problem. So, always make them qualify themselves. because then you've put yourself into the powerful position as the business. You don't want to be scratching around looking for clients. You want people queuing up to come and work for you or to come and work with you. And we've always had that ethos. And I mean, typically people come in for a painful problem, but the real reason we treat them is to help them with their mobility, independence, longevity. We've really pushed towards that health and wellness side of things in the last 2 years, especially. And we might get them in for back pain, but they stay with us because they love how they feel when they come. We treat them like a real person. We make them feel special. And we actively speak to them every session about, look, if you keep coming to see us, we're going to help you maintain your mobility. You might be in your 70s now, but you're going to still be fit in your 80s and hopefully your 90s if you keep going. You know, your independence is worth its weight in gold. That's what we're helping you to achieve. It's not just keeping you out of back pain. It's keeping you moving, keeping you off painkillers, stopping you from having to go to the doctors every couple of weeks for a new ache or a new pain. And really, that's the value in what we provide. So the people who come to see us are very health conscious. They value their independence. They value keeping mobile. They've got grandkids. They want to be able to play with their grandkids. Many of them still play sport, even in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and they want to keep doing that. So there's a real like psychographic, which everyone in our world shares, if you like, and we're very protective over that. So I remember you said once upon a time that when you were asking, you know, your staff, should we let this person into the program, the question was, are they going to fuck it up? Are they going to mess up what we've got? And we do that here with our patients. It's like, you know, are they our people, or are they better off going around the corner? And we're in a very blessed position. We do have, you know, a long waiting list. Partly that's because of the media business, but we can be selective. So as such, you know, we're in quite high demand. So we have reasonably high prices. I see less and less patients, but an initial consult with me now is £200 for an hour. For my associate Lucy, it's 120, and we're looking at increasing prices going forward to reflect the demand and the supply mismatch, really.
Well, I try to make my mission at every seminar that we get people to raise prices after it. So hopefully after London, we'll get you to raise these prices. But I'm just going to say
maybe
that again.
before.
Maybe before. Yeah, why wait? Why wait to give yourself a pay rise? So for everybody listening in the UK, he said £120 for his associate and £200 for himself. Now, I can tell you that will blow the brains of most people listening to this in the United Kingdom. They're struggling at 50, 55s and 60s. I was at 65s and 70s 10 years ago. 10 years ago when I first started getting on this journey of understanding business and how it worked. And back to your story. So I've just put my book. So I wrote this book in 2013, and it was called. Did you know this book? Did you see this back in the day? Yeah, The Healthy Habit. Yeah,
of course. Yeah,
I'd like. Is it? Yeah, a little bit in it. The Healthy Habit: Learn secrets to keep active, maintain independence, and live free from painkillers. This was the magic. Essential reading for people age 50 plus. That was me basically saying I only want 50s and above, right? And this was 10 years ago. Now, long story short, what happens and will happen to you is your client will go on a journey, and they'll actually end up being like the best client will be in their 60s, and I predict that's what will happen to you. You'll start seeing it shift slightly. It did for me. You put your kind of marker down that they're in their 50s, and they evolve, and the next thing you know, actually some of your best clients might even be in their 60s. But when I first put this book out, and this was our lead generation tool on Facebook and newspaper ads, I was giving this book away, and even the website said, we help people age 50 plus keep active, mobile, and free from painkillers. I remember vividly when I put the website up, within about 2 days, an email came in from some guy. I'm age 49 and 51 weeks, and it's my birthday next week. I swear, right? It's my birthday next week. Can I get in before then, or do I have to wait, right? But this was the funniest thing, right? This is the best bit. Vicky at the time and two of my staff were like, Paul, like, we think this is a problem. And I said, why? They went, because you're turning away we're going to lose so much business from people in their 40s, right? And I was like, no, I don't think you get this. I said, what other physio clinic, this is 10 years ago, what other physio clinic in England is getting people begging to take them on and about to prove the passport and the validity of their age to book an appointment? Can you just understand the magnitude of what we have just done? It blew the staff's brains, and then they got it. this was the polarizing. We don't want everybody, and even the ones who fall just below 50 are going to start ringing up and going, well, I want to be in. How do I get in? And it's at that point and only that point do your prices get set. Where everybody else, with no marketing message, with no marketing understanding, with I rely upon word of mouth and all that bullshit that they come out with, which is why they're stuck most of the times. That's why they can't raise their prices, and they have clients that are sporadic, from a 18-year-old to a 90-year-old walking in the building at the same time. Now, of course, like, we would still get the 20-year-olds, because what we worked out, and I don't know if you have experienced this, actually the second demographic that you create is their grandkids. So the referral, we will, oh, this is interesting, because we've now got the 50s and the 60-year-olds. That lends itself to us, actually, the client is still a 50 and 60-year-old, but we're happy to take on their grandkids. So in our head, the core client at the marketing level still became the 50-year-old, 55-year-old Mary, but we knew Mary had a 22-year-old daughter. So although we didn't advertise for the 22-year-old daughter, we ended up with the 22-year-old daughter or the 5-year-old grandkid or whatever it would be. But all we ever did was marketed to Mary, and then we created a separate sort of subsection, if you like, in the clinic for Mary's grandkids, and we added another 20-30% of revenue to it because of Mary, because we knew she was the influencer. So it was all very strategic, and I think that's what you guys have done. So I absolutely love it. So £120 for your associate, £200 for you. If I come through the doors, how does it work? Am I buying a plan? Am I spending $1,000 with you up front? Like, what do you do?
Well, the first thing that happens would be you get on the phone with one of our customer service people, and typically our calls are 20 minutes plus,
Yep.
Which is so different to most clinics, and it's what you've taught all these years. It's like, make that initial phone call, really meaningful, and then they're not going to want to go to anywhere else. So it starts there. It's, all the screening questions, just to see what they've had in the past, what they're suffering with, how long they've suffered, what they've tried, all of this kind of stuff. And then when they come in through the door, they're obviously made to feel really welcome. We prioritize experience over everything else, and they can either come for a discovery session or an initial consultation. And obviously, if it's a discovery, then they'll progress on to that consult. And then everything's done in plans. So we don't really sell pay-as-you-go treatment. We stopped doing that a while ago, and the plans are prescribed by the physio. So it's a prescription of care. This is how many sessions it's likely to take you to get better.
Yeah.
This is what's going to be included in the session. This is why I'm recommending this number of sessions. This is how much it's going to cost you. And then obviously it's up to them to decide whether they want to do that, or if there's some kind of, they're not sure, then there can be a plan B, a second option, or we can just need to overcome an objection, basically. But 99% of people do a plan now. We very rarely have pay-as-you-go patients.
How many sessions on average would that be?
12. PVA is running at around 10 at the moment, but it's rising up to 12. We had a meeting the other day, and it was like, we want that PVA to get to 12, really.
Love it.
So we're prescribing plans of 16 plus. And because of the type of problem we treat, they genuinely need that much treatment.
Yeah.
Like, it's long-term arthritic problems. Some of these people have suffered for 10 years plus.
Yeah.
They come in and we say, you might have been expecting me to say you need to come here 4 times, but that's not realistic.
Yeah.
I'm doing you a massive disservice if I tell you you're going to be better after 4. It's going to take this long because of the complexity of the problem and how long you've had it. And people generally understand that, and they appreciate knowing what's involved. They don't want to keep coming once a week and not knowing if they're going to be welcome back the next week or not. They want to know the plans there.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that was one of the biggest game changers for me. So you've got an average patient spend there of about £1,500 to £2,000, which is, again, a typical, take this the right way, a typical physio might have just be finding this podcast. It's probably got somewhere between 100 and 150. And then they wonder why everything is stuck. The clinic is average. The marketing, there's no spend. They can't get the systems. They've got a cheap front desk girl who's got no time, never has any time. And they're just swimming in a world of just average, basically, and just problems because they can't get their prices up, and they can't get the profitability in the business to invest in a media company or stronger marketing. They don't understand the marketing, so all of their problems are actually self-fueling, if you like. But what they'll always tell themselves is, nobody in our town will pay that much money. It's like, they will, they absolutely will. But the marketing and the service has to be bespoke to that individual. And if it isn't, they'll smell it and they'll walk out the door, if you like. So I think it's as good as I mean, the fact that you're trying to raise it as well is amazing, and I think that's a lesson for everybody. The biggest mindset shift that I had to have was away from the NHS. You've done well to get out of that very early, because the NHS's mindset is let's have a few sessions and see how it goes. If they're lucky, they get 2 or 3. And you've come along and said, no, look, you've had this problem for 15 years. You expect me to fix this in 4 lots of 30-minute sessions? I'm often of the opinion of, like, who the physios think they are, that we can switch 15 years of stiffness and aches and pains. We can switch all that off and somehow with a straight face tell ourselves that it can be done in 4 lots of 30-minute sessions with some TheraBand exercises and come back once or twice. I mean, it's laughable, and it is one of the reasons I think why the profession really struggles. It doesn't take itself seriously. It struggles against the backdrop of an NHS where it is free and it's average, if that. It's very, very poor, in fact, in terms of the outcomes that people get and the general love of physio in the NHS. So I think that's your opportunity to be brave and say, I'm going to be different, and here's my book, and here's my marketing message, and this is who we're for, and I'm going to give you 20 minutes on the phone. So when you arrive in my world, you're already bought in and you're happy to say yes to what we do, because nobody else specializes. There won't be another physio in town who specializes for a 50-year-old.
No. All sports clinics.
All sports clinics. I remember the day when people were like, oh, you're going to run a sports injury clinic. I said, well, what would I want to do that for? I quite like the idea of making some money. But you've come out of being in professional sport. I said, I know, but the problem with a 21-year-old guy who pulls his hamstring, he doesn't give a crap about paying hundreds of pounds for physio. He'll just wait till it goes away. And anybody that is a professional athlete has probably got some kind of funding, or as part of the Olympics kind of, training centers or whatever they all are these days, or they're at a soccer club or football academy or whatever. They're not coming to us. So the niche for me was the 50-year-olds, and that's what I'd realized back in the day. So tell me about, so that's your business model. I love it. Again, for people listening, the approach I think that you've done very well is not just the price and not just the marketing, but you're really thinking more about health and wellness rather than physio. Physio is a very different, very, very difficult business to scale. Very difficult to scale if you haven't got an approach that is more massage and orthotics and shockwave and all of these other things, exercises, Pilates, whatever it'll be. If we don't bring that kind of health and wellness, essentially you have a customer that comes in, buys one thing and leaves, and that there's no business in the world that survives like that, which again is part of the struggle for many physio businesses. But if I think health and wellness, well, there's a range of products and services. I've got a customer, but they could buy 7 or 8 different things going on in the business. My lifetime value is now 20 years rather than 2 or 3 weeks, which it is for most businesses. So that's your model.
I owe you a massive shout out for a call you did a couple of years ago. You spoke about the year of care plan.
Yep. Again, back in the day.
It's the first time I'd ever heard it. It's the first time I'd heard it, and just something clicked. And I was like, if we sell a year of care plan to a patient who's just had 12 sessions, and year of care plan might be 1 session a month for a year, you've just doubled your value in that patient.
Yeah.
And for the patient, it makes perfect logical sense, because they don't want to just go out on their own and chance it, the fact that it will never come back. Maintenance for them makes perfect sense, especially the demographic I'm treating.
Yeah.
They know that the improvements don't come for free. They have to keep working on it. And as soon as they walk out this door, they're less and less and less likely to keep working on it. So if they have that accountability, which it costs us very little to provide that, you've just doubled your value per patient and given a great service to the patient.
It's what they want, and they've always wanted it. And again, unfortunately, we come from such a poor mindset. Like the sort of commercial aspect of a physio business owner in the UK, we haven't got any real good role models, right? I had to go to the US to learn it. And people are like, why did you end up in America? It's like, well, because that's where I had to go to learn how to run a business. There wasn't any role models in the UK. It was just, what was their physio? What do they call it? Physio Plus or something like that chart, the Chartered Society's private practice thing. I was like, what the fuck's this? Like, this is just horrendous. Like, and these guys are like the private practice section of the United Kingdom. No wonder everyone's charging 30 quid and seeing 2 or 3 sessions and poor at the other end. They might as well stayed in the NHS basically, or begging Bupa to fund it. So the year of care thing for me was, again, I modeled it off chiropractors, for full disclosure. I took it, I went to the US, I found this chiropractor that was doing it. I was like, oh, wow. Now theirs was like 70 and 100 sessions. I was like, holy shit, right? So even then I'm going, okay, can I modify this just a little just to get it out the door? And then what we created was an A, B, and a C. And if I remember correctly, it was 36, 24, and 12. But where the magic was, it wasn't just physio, because I knew I couldn't scale the physio side of it. I didn't want everybody coming in for physio. So we included massage and acupuncture. And you were allowed to pick, if it was 36 sessions, it was like 12 physio, 12 acupuncture, 12 massage. So you got a year of care. Basically, if it was 24, it was like 8, 8, and 8. And if it was 12, it was 4, 4, and 4. So I created this very early, all-encompassing wellness kind of program. Basically, I never really called it that. I just called it a year of care. And then what we did for anybody who took 36 sessions, we created like a group. Basically, you were one of our VIPs, and we take you out and we go out for a walk. And I never did this, for full disclosure, but I think at this point my sort of American dream kicked in and I started this business. But I certainly in my head thought that the next step for the year of care was something like hiring a cinema, right? Where I would take all of my clients, and knowing that they're in their 50s and 60s, you'd put on Dirty Dancing, or you'd put on something that they'd watched, right, growing up. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you had a night and you took them for a beer and it was popcorn and it was fun and they brought their friends. Like, this was in my head 10, 12 years ago, and I started it and I never got to that point, right? So maybe you can take that on for me, Will, and you can do something like that. You hire a bus and you take them out for the day, and you take them, in my case, we took them out to the Lake District up in the Northeast, and like that was where we were headed. So the business was becoming more than just a physio business. It was becoming a community, and it was becoming something that people wanted to be part of, and they felt special. And the year of care people had priority access to the calendar, so you could call up any time and you'd be seen that day. Like, we'd move appointments for you. Like, everything was just like, it just didn't scream as a physio business. Do you know what I mean? It was like, but the most important thing, it was fun. We give them t-shirts, like they were recognized within the community. They were on testimonials, like they were famous. Do you know what I mean? Inside of the organization. And like I said, this is back in, I mean, by this point, it'll have been about 2016 as I got to this, 2015, 2016. I started understanding all this around about 2013. So it might have been 15, 16. So 8 years ago. So there is so much you can play with this. And when you understand that you're not actually looking for a patient with back pain who has 2 sessions and leaves, you're trying to build a community of like-minded people with like-minded interests and hobbies who are bored as shit with nowhere to go. Like, there's nothing that like, there's nothing to do in their lives as a general rule. People are looking for a home. They're looking for a place where they can be part of, looking for somebody to trust, somebody who takes care of them. They know they can't get hold of the doctor. They want to be around other active people. They want somebody to arrange a walking day out in the countryside with them and take them and all that type of stuff. These days, you imagine YouTube and that, putting that on social media, hiring the cinema in Farnborough, which is probably fucking 300 quid for a Monday night session somewhere. Screen 16 is probably empty. They'll give you it for 300 quid, plus the food, plus this, for 1,000 quid. You've probably entertained 25, 30, 40, 50 people. You imagine that, right? You want to start thinking bigger, but you're on that path, and that's where I think you should start to take this. As your year of care isn't just about getting some money off them. It's actually about identifying who are your best clients, and then giving them more and more and more, so that they tell more and more people, and you use that as the next social media, and on we go. And now all of a sudden I mean, you left physio behind years ago anyway, but like now you're in a completely different bracket. You want to raise the prices to 220? Now all of a sudden they're cutting off their social network. Do you know what I mean? So it's all there. So love it. Fantastic. Well done. Tell me about your team. So your recruitment challenges that you've overcome then. What was that, other than the fear? You just didn't know how?
No, it's a bit of everything really. So to be quite honest, it was the fear really. I was terrified, absolutely terrified to hire. And
legally, the HR side of it, or the getting it wrong,
just all of it. I think I just hadn't really like got my head around what it was and how easy it is to just not have a problem with it. If you get it wrong, you can always reverse it, and that just never gone in.
Yeah.
No, I look back now and I'm like, it's so stupid. I wasted a year slaving on my own. I should have done it earlier, and it took coming to London and being told by you guys, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, someone looked at my diary and I had like 60 people I was seeing that week. I think it was Nathan. Do you know Nathan?
Yeah,
from
of course.
the group?
Yeah.
He was just like, what the fuck are you doing, mate? He was looking at me. He was like, what? He was like, you've got this massive YouTube thing and you're seeing 60 people. You haven't got anyone to help you. Like, what is going on? And I sat in the car after London. Bryony comes sit next to me, just sat in silence for like 3 seconds, and I went, "Well, it looks like I'm finding a physio then, doesn't it?"
Yeah.
And I was just like, whatever happens, I just have to get over this like mental hurdle now.
I think
But to be honest, it wasn't just me. It was help from Luke. Luke
yeah.
was really, really instrumental.
One of the things, and again, this is a shameless plug for a community like what we've got and we've created, is you just think it's only you feeling that way, and you just think what you do is like, this is the way it has to be. Then all of a sudden you go to an event like that, and Nathan, who's probably hired like 30 people, goes, well, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing, right? Like, what are you trying to do? Kill yourself? Like, you're going to be rich, but you're being a graveyard dude. Like, you can. This is the next step for you to move on, and that's what I think is one of the most valuable things. Is you get out your comfort zone and you see what other people are doing, and you go, actually, I can charge this much money, and I can hire these people. And I think as I look back on my first hires, like a lot of it is nobody's showing you what a job ad is. Like what, just like the basics. But it's like, if I want to run a marathon, it's like, okay, that frightens me. But if a coach comes along and goes, Paul, we need to eat this, you need to do this, you need to run this, you need to do this training on a Sunday. It's like, oh, that I can do all of that. And recruitment is, okay, let's put a job ad up. Let's interview them. There's the 6 questions. Let's look for this in their career. Let's look for this in the past. And what's the worst that can happen here? We might lose a couple of £1,000, right? Like, and if that's at this point of business, if we can't risk that, like, you're in trouble. Do you know what I mean? We really, really are in trouble at that point, because there's nowhere for this to go. But then I think it's the conversation. For me, it was, what do you want to be? Do you want to be stuck at the desk, or do you want to run a business and be able to travel the world, which is something you do? You do fantastically well. So what was who was your first hire? Was it another physio, or was it front desk?
It was another physio. So I already had Bryony working for me, but she doesn't really count because she's my partner. So
you can't fire her.
She was. I know. Dangerous game, Paul. This.
I don't have any advice for that.
Wouldn't recommend it.
Not a chance. There's a reason that Natalie is you do not see Natalie
at the door, like,
anywhere near my business, and she's quite happy to stay that way. She does. In fact, I don't even think she knows what I do. She's just like, "You had a good day." I'm like, yeah, good. Like, just do you want me to? Nope. Don't get involved in anything. Like, it's all good. So who came next?
It's the physio first, and then I hired a video editor. As the YouTube grew, and then a virtual assistant, and now another front desk, because we were fully booked as physios with Bryony, and she was also doing the graphic design for the YouTube, and she was like, I'm drowning. I can't take all the calls and answer all the emails and make all the clients teas and coffee. So it's like, we need another customer service person to really elevate that experience. So so those are the 4 in the physio business, and then the 2 in the media side.
So we're going to move on and talk a little bit about your expert status. You've become a little bit of a celebrity, shall we call it, and rightly so, or a big celebrity, I guess. We've got a book licensing or publishing deal. We've got how many followers on YouTube?
750,000 now, almost 750,000.
750,000 followers on YouTube. We've got a book that has been recently bought. Did they buy the rights to it and publish it? So what was the title of your book?
Yeah, so Thriving Beyond 50.
Yeah.
So I wrote it in 2020. It was exactly what you were doing with the Healthy Habit. It was a marketing tool. It wasn't designed to sell loads of copies. But as the YouTube took off, there was a link to the book in the description of the videos, and we went on to sell almost 30,000 copies.
Amazing.
And about 4 or 5 months ago, I had a reach out from a publisher, Hay House.
Yeah.
Who are owned by
deal,
Penguin.
by the way. Yeah, they're a big deal.
And they basically said, would you be interested in writing a book for us? So I got on a call with them, and after we'd spoken, they said, we'd love you to write us a new book, but we also want to buy Thriving.
Yeah.
And initially I said, no, it's doing really well at the moment. I want to keep control of it. I'd already written a updated and expanded edition, which is so much better than the original. I was like, this book's going to fly.
Yeah.
But they came back 2 or 3 times with improved offers, and in the end, I was just like, all right, let's do it. Let's do it. So it's a 2-book deal. The new edition of Thriving's out on the 1st of October globally, and then the second book is coming out January 2026. I've started writing already because I've only got a year to write it. So yeah, plugging away at that.
So what's the routine like for the YouTube channel? Tell me about that.
So I showed the guys on our progress call the other day, like my week's like a military operation, so it really wouldn't work for everyone. But in terms of the YouTube, so all of my filming for the week happens in one block. So I block out a morning on a Friday and film 4 videos.
Yeah.
And we come in I come in super early, do the 4 until I've got what I need for the week, and that's just reshooting it until it's good enough.
Yeah.
And then the raw files go over to my editor, who's also my camera guy. He will edit them over the weekend and upload them to our shared file. Then Bryony will put them on to YouTube and do the thumbnails.
Yeah.
I'll just fill out the little bit of marketing description, and then we schedule 4 videos a week, and we've done that for the last 2 years at that cadence.
When did you feel it go pop? When did you go from 1,000 subscribers to holy shit, I've got 100,000 subscribers here? What was the ramp, the hockey stick, COVID curve kind of moment?
That literally happened in a week. We went from 1,000 to 100,000 in the last week of May last year, the final week of May. But I've been working on YouTube for 2.5 years up to that point, just plugging away. So it took me almost 2.5 years to get to 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And then 1 week to go from 1,000 to 100,000, to give you an idea of the kind of exponential growth. And I remember that weekend because it just exploded. Like the phone wouldn't stop ringing. I had hundreds of emails. All this stuff was going on, and I had to call my friend. I was supposed to be going to his birthday party, and I was like, I have to stay because I don't know what to do. Like everything's collapsing and around me. I need to like make a plan because we just didn't know what to do. We weren't prepared for it. So I took that weekend and we would like put some structures in place to kind of separate the media business from the physio business, so that it didn't crash us here.
Yeah.
And then we put in the kind of stabilizers so we could keep growing.
I love it. And I think, again, for everybody listening, it's so nice doing these interviews because you get close to people who are having their success, and they deserve it because the work that they do in private, if you like, is now public. So everybody sees that and think, wow, 750,000. Like, God, what was so special about what he did? And has he got, I bet people think, oh, but he's got the best camera and the best cameraman and all of this type of bollocks. It's like, not only just made a plan, he stuck to it, he committed to it. And it was 2.5 years in the making for it to go pop. And I have no doubt that's the magic to everything that we do here. It's that once you make a commitment, stick at it and watch it go. But what I think another lesson for everybody listening to this is you have become a celebrity. I use the words little mini celebrities. Like, you are a celebrity, right? There's no doubt about it. Like, there's people reading your books from all over the world. There's nearly 1 million people subscribed to your YouTube. My kids will probably be subscribed to your YouTube channel as well. There is nearly 1 million people subscribed to your channel. There's people reading books. You are undoubtedly the authority in your field, not just nationally, heading towards globally, right? So there'll be invites to speak, which I think is already starting to happen. Come and be out in this country, come and do this, come and do the other. Now, somebody listening to this going, well, that's all right for Will. Well, that's fine for Will. That's why he charges X. So that's why he charges Y. It is all right for Will. And he is doing the book and he is doing the YouTube channel. And that's why he can charge $200 or £200 for a session, because essentially he did what we've been preaching for years, whether it was through me directly or indirectly. The differentiator between you and your competitor is what the customer thinks about you, the perception that they have of you. When they read the book, when they see that YouTube channel, when they see that interview, when they listen to your podcast, when they see you speak on stage, there is a completely different aura around you. And what has never changed, no matter the internet, AI, governments come and go, movements come and go, cultural changes happen every however long. What has never changed and won't is the idea that somebody wants to work with the expert or the celebrity. And any individual that makes a commitment to being the standout individual, write the book, do the podcast, do the videos, do the hard lines, yards with the marketing, improve the customer service, get in the newspapers, have the press releases, do the workshops. Anybody that commits to that, which isn't easy, ultimately gets the rewards. And I think if you're in the game, let's just get in it and do it and commit to a book and do one every 3 years. And if you're on YouTube, do a YouTube video twice a week, right? They might not be able to do it every day. Do it twice a week. There's no excuse for anybody not to be able to do a YouTube video twice a week if that's their game plan. And there's no excuse not to have a podcast or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, to position yourself as differently, because you're only a couple of years away from it. And those, I can tell you, those 2 years come around so quickly. So I think what you're doing is amazing. I said this to Nash once, and I'm going to say it to you, and I definitely see it in others in the group. But it's and take this the right way. It isn't an ego thing. I see so much of me in you, and when I see Nash, who's also obviously in the group from Bolton, I see so much of Nash. Or me and Nash, right? Or Nash and me, whatever we want. Sort of the younger version of Paul, if you like. Not that I'm that old now, but I felt like I got into business so early. And I look at you and I look at Nash, and I feel like you guys are going to take it on. And like I genuinely do. Like I watch you with the YouTube channel and your books and your royalty deals and all these things. And it's like, I just hope you smash it. And I hope you do the cinema thing. And I hope you have 8 clinics. And I hope it's like a brand that you can sell to some fucking booper come along with a £20 million check at some point in 5 years and go, there you go, Will, we want everything. And I'm going to go, fucking good for you. Do you know what I mean? And that's almost, as I think about what my role is, it's like my kids, you want them to eclipse you, and you want them to do better than you, and you want them to be bigger than you and stronger than you, and you want them to be happier than you and successful than you. So as I watch you guys, I can't tell you how much of, like, from a personal satisfaction that I get listening to these stories, to even think that might be like a tiny smidgen of something that I've contributed to it for you guys to be doing what you're doing and to do what you're doing it's not normal. And I hope you understand that. Like, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. It is not normal what you're doing. The success that you're having is probably, you don't get enough pats on the back, and I don't know if your parents are telling you or your wife's telling you or anybody around you, but like what you're doing is fucking amazing. It is next level, and it's difficult in Britain because we don't celebrate as much, and it's hard to tell anybody that you're making this much money, or you're charging this, or you're living this type of life. It's like, oh, don't tell anybody we're going to the Seychelles for a talk. Like, let's just tell them we're going to Tenerife for a few days, and we're like, let's just say nothing. Do you know what I mean? And I was guilty of all that years ago. It was like we were starting to book flights to New York and all these types. I was like, don't tell them where we're going. He's like, why? I was like, just don't tell them. Well, I don't want the patients to think that I've got too much money, because they might stop giving it to me and all that shit. Do you know what I mean? It all goes through you. It all goes through your head. So I absolutely love it. Tell me about your travels. Last thing then. So we've been able to now, and this is why I love what you've done. You've nailed the business model. You've got the prices right. You've got the financial side of it right. You've got I'm going to call it the fun side of it, the book, the YouTube, the media side of it, right? You're not a physio there. You're the entrepreneur. Will's an entrepreneur, and he's a businessman there. There's no doubt about it, right? There's a business brain kicking in everywhere. I love this. But what I think is the icing on the cake for you is the travel piece as well, and the fulfillment, and the happier now than ever, from what I can gather, a lot more confident in yourself as a result of the journey that you've been on. Talk to me about that before we finish.
I think going back to what you were saying about like seeing a little part of yourself in some of us, some of that's by design. Like I quickly recognized when I was listening to your podcast and joining the programs and stuff that you've obviously had success, with a lot of success in business, but you're also really happy as well. You seem like you've got a great life. And I thought, I've just got to like learn as much from this guy as I can to emulate some of that. So, I first thing I did when I joined Mastermind is go back through all of the calls, listen to every single one, just to see if by osmosis, can I like take some of this stuff in? But you're right. It's, the point of business really is to improve your life. There's no point just growing and getting bigger from a financial point of view if you're not actually going to enjoy it. And one of our big things is travel. So Bryony and I love to travel. We're trying to tick off a long list of countries, and the business has allowed us to do that. We've been to Sri Lanka, we've been to Mauritius, we've been to Zanzibar last year, which is absolutely fantastic. We're not going away to anywhere. We're going to Rome this year, but nowhere sort of far flung, because we get married this year. And then next year we've booked a fantastic safari in Tanzania, which has always been a bucket list thing. And it was nice to just kind of have a look at it and go, that's what we want to do, and not worry too much about trying to fit into a specific budget. It's like, what do we want to do when we go there? We're going this far. Let's just do everything we want to do. Feel very blessed and privileged to be able to do that. But that's kind of the way we celebrate, if you like.
Good for you. And I think to answer your questions, if I seem like a happy guy, I'm very content. I'm very fulfilled, and lots of reasons why, whether it's the journey that I'm on, or the work that I do, and the the people I meet, the adventures that I have, the challenges that I live with. Business is huge for me, and the number of staff and the international clients and all of the I love the complaints, I love the pats on the back, I love everything, and I had to sort of switch my attitude to that. But ultimately, I did very early realize that there was a separation between my identity couldn't be as a business owner. I got very, very lucky early because I'd probably watched people in business in my family, my dad and a couple of other people, like their whole life was business. And I knew early I didn't want to be I didn't want to be a business guy. Like equally I do, but I don't. Like I want to be a dad, and I want to be a travel enthusiast, and I want to be a football fan, and I want to be a cricket fan, and I want to lie on a beach, and I want to ride the elephant in the safari, and I want to do all of these things. So I knew early on that I wanted that to be part of my life, and just made a plan to go get it basically. And don't get me wrong, sometimes in business it takes you off, and you love it a bit too much, and you get a little bit consumed by it. But definitely as I've got older, I've got much better at going, okay, I can leave that at the door now, but I have to go off and have fun with the kids. Like I owe it to them, and I have to go off and spend time with Natalie. I owe it to her, and I have to go off and have some me time, and I owe it to me to do that. And that isn't neglecting my responsibilities or my duties in the office. There's just a box I need to put these things in, and goes like, that's what you've got, that's what you've got, and that's what you've got for Paul to be a well-rounded individual, which at the end of the day is the goal. It's not to be, I don't want to get to the end of my life and think, oh, he was a great business owner, but he had shit relationship with his kids, right? He had a turbulent relationship with his wife. He never saw his friends. He had loads of money in the bank, but he missed out on all of the sport games that he secretly loved and wanted to go to. And he never got to travel, and he never met people in different countries and different religions and different cultural backgrounds. Like, what was the point of living? I just figured out early that the best chance I had of all of that was to get the business thing right. So it warranted my commitment. And then whenever I'm at work and a bit sluggish or tired or worried, or it's like, let's do it because that's on the line. Those things are on the line. And just little things I wrote down just as you were talking. My sort of enjoyment of business is always first, and I've figured out that if I enjoy it, I'll be good at it. And anytime you take me into a place where I don't enjoy it, I pull it, because I'm not gonna bring I can bring my energy to it for 3 months, but after that I'll be half-assing it, and then people would see it. And recently I actually changed Monday morning meetings in my office. And I've actually taught for years. I don't know if I told you this. Did you hear about this? I did an event last week. I did that many events. I did an event for about 30 people last week, and I told them, and I said I got fucking sick of coming in on a Monday morning, right? I live in Florida. It's utopia, right? It is fucking beautiful, right? I mean, like, it is paradise, right? There's blue sky, there's palm trees, there's a pool in my garden, there's 4 kids, there's bottles of margarita kicking about, there's barbecues, there's music on all weekend, like there's Disney, there's fireworks. So you go from like this absolute utopia to coming in at 9 o'clock on the morning to an all staff meeting at 9 o'clock, right? And all that happens on these fucking meetings is problems, and this person's quit, and this person's complained, and this person's done this. And I'm like, a couple of weeks ago, I stopped coming on the meetings, and Sophie was like, why aren't you coming on? I said, I just can't do it. She's like, honest to God, I'm laughing. I can't do it. I go from like absolute fucking like hedonism, right, to fucking 9 o'clock, where all I do is get slapped in the face with shit, right? And then I went, who designed this meeting at 9 o'clock? She went, you did. I said, I know, right? And that's it. Monday morning meeting is now a Thursday morning meeting. Like, at least I've got 3 fucking days to warm up to the thing. So Monday morning meetings don't exist anymore in my office. They're now a Thursday morning meeting, right? But that's another example of like, just fucking, like, doesn't matter. Just move the thing to get I come in now, I have an extra hour in the gym. I come in at 10 o'clock. I'm energetic. I'm buzzing. I'm ready to go. There's a little bit of gap between the weekend and me and being in the office, and I'll stay late for an hour. But the whole day changed because I was able to look at it and go, actually, that suits me. And if it suits Paul, the business is probably going to be absolutely fine in the long term. And that's what this thing is. Customers will be fine. Clients will be fine. Staff will be fine. Like, if Paul's happy and energetic and kind of there's not a shit going on in his head, like, this is going to be absolutely fine. And last little thing I'll give you, and this is for everybody listening. I try to look at it. It doesn't just need to be about the money side of it, which is massively important. And I did write about that in the book, the Extraordinary Achievement book. It absolutely is about money, because you can't go on the safaris. Like, to be on the safari is better than fucking watching it on Netflix, what anybody says, right? You need the cash to do that, though. That's the problem. $20 a month subscription, anybody can afford. 5 to 10 grand to get your ass to Tanzania and do the safari, that's a different conversation, right? And I also don't want it to be a once every 10-year thing. Or do you know when people come out with, oh, this is a once in a lifetime trip? I'm like, fuck that. If it's good enough to go once, we can go every year, right? I got that shit out of my kids' vocabulary. Natalie used to say this shit to them. They'd be like, oh, like it's a once in a lifetime. I'm like, there's fucking no such thing as once in a lifetime. If it's good enough to go once, we go 3 times a year. Like that's a different level of thinking, right? So to me, progress outside of business comes down to this. And again, for anybody who hasn't bought the book, the Extraordinary Achievement book, I talk about these types of things in it. A sign that you're making progress. Problems are smaller. Same thing last year was big. This year it's small. So in your case, Will, hiring was a big problem. Now it's what the fuck? It's like a little wasp on your hand that you're flicking away. It's like it's irrelevant. A year ago it was a big shark that was gonna fucking eat you up. Experiences are wider. There's a bigger depth to your experiences. The travel thing, the personal thing, the people that you're meeting, the places you go. There's more experiences that you are living through. If it's the same ones as the year before, there's no progress there. A simple one, you laugh more. I think it's the reverse for most people. It's actually inverse as they get older. They stop laughing. They stop looking for reasons to enjoy life. I was out on Saturday night, right, with Natalie, and I took her to this Elvis impersonation. I swear to God, Elvis impersonator on Saturday night in the middle of celebration, right? To say it was different is an understatement, but the dude's brilliant, and I love him. And people walk past at the end of the night, and they sat on the seats opposite the pub, right, to listen to him. And I could see some of the conversations for about 20 minutes. Should we go in? Right? Because they hadn't planned to go in. This is my point, right? They hadn't planned to go in. They toddled around the little town and they went, oh, nice. Oh, I wasn't expecting this. But we'll sit and watch, and there they are on a little dance. And, some of them are in the 70s, probably a few of your clients, probably, right? There they are, 60s and 70s. They're having a little dance with each other and all this. And I can see the wife telling the husband, come and go in. And oh, no. Like, get fucking in and have a laugh. Let your fucking hair down. And it's because they haven't planned to have fun. Like, they didn't put on the calendar, laugh at Elvis, have a giggle, have a nice night. It was, let's go for a walk. Or we've been for a meal, we've had a walk. Heaven forbid we go in and watch Elvis and we have a bit of a giggle. They can't do it, right? As they get older, people get less spontaneous. That was one of the things I wrote about in my book. You'll have seen this with your 50s and 60-year-olds. They get less spontaneous. They don't want to do anything. It's routine, right? Routine's good till it isn't. And I think, again, as business owners and as people as we age, we get inverse to laugh. As kids, we're laughing all the time. And then something happens around about 40 and 50 and everything's fucking serious. And you forget to just be spontaneous. There's Elvis. Let's go and have a couple of drinks. Boom, off we go. Let's have some fun. And the last one, closer to the kids. Like, you haven't got kids yet? No?
No.
Not yet. No. Okay, closer to your wife. So as I look back at the end of the year, my problem's getting smaller and my experience is getting wider. Is the depth of the things that I'm doing getting bigger? Am I laughing more? And am I getting closer to my kids and Natalie? And is my bank balance going up? Those 5 things. Paul's a well-rounded individual if he nails those 5 things. Paul's a boring bastard if he just nails the finance stuff. Now, yes, he can go off and he can go to Tanzania and all that shit, but he'll probably be stressed, miserable. He'll be wondering why his kids are not grateful and not entitled or are entitled and all of these other things. Like, I don't think that's what we're about. So I think for us and for me, the whole bigger picture thing of business is one thing, but who you're becoming and what you're achieving is another. And I think I've got no other words for it other than nailing it. Like, you're just smashing it and keep doing it and keep being humble and keep being generous with your time. If people ask for it, which they will inevitably, even after this podcast, you'll have people reaching out to you and in the community, which I know you do in our world back there in the UK mastermind. So I think you're doing amazing, and I couldn't be happier for you. And it's humbling for me to watch it and just even get closer to you at this level and find out a little bit more about what you're doing. So I think you're doing amazing. Last thing. Last thing, I always ask this. If there's one thing that you've learned from me, so you've been around me for 7 or 8 years externally, and last year or so in the mastermind community, what would be the one thing that you think was I needed to hear that, and that's really that's helped me? What would it be?
So much. One thing, I'm a bit of a nerd with like self-improvement and trying to improve the way I see the world. So I have a little log of lessons that I keep from like all of my mentors and the people I respect. And I was going back through this log. There's probably 1,000 things in there now, but trying to see which one. Oh, that's a Paul one. That's a Paul one. That's a Paul. And there was one really tactical one, and there was one like that genuinely changed my life. Could I do both?
Absolutely. Feel free. Yeah. Give me more than one.
Could be here all night. the tactical one was in London. You made us do that exercise when you were like, right, write down everything you do in a week. What's a distraction?
Yeah.
What's a task?
Tasks.
What's high value? And what's high leverage?
Yeah.
And I was sat there thinking I was so clever with, like, you know, fully booked with patients, and like YouTube was going quite well at that point, not where it is now, but it was growing. And wrote down all my tasks, and I just like looked down, and I was just staring at a sheet full of just tasks.
Yeah.
I was like, what is going on? And it just really changed the way I think about my week. And I was saying to the guys on the progress call the other day, like, I actually like mark down on my jobs list each week, like, what's a task, what's high value, and what's high leverage. And I'll block the high leverage stuff into time
Yeah.
blocks in the week now, and that's all because of that discussion. I think the biggest thing though, and this genuinely changed everything for me. It was just one of those moments where you said it on a call, and I just had to pause. I was listening to the replay, I had to pause it and stop and just let it percolate. And you said something along the lines of, you need to always ask yourself, who do you want to be?
Yeah.
Do you want to be the sort of person who is nice and comes across as, you know, a decent guy, but shies away from big decisions, doesn't have the difficult conversations, doesn't do what needs to be done? Or do you want to be the one who does the hard things, does the uncomfortable stuff, does the things that others will criticize you for, but then when you're on your own in the dead of night, you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, I did what needed to be done? And that has always stuck with me. It's been a big motto for me for the last year.
It's
So
pretty
thank you for
powerful.
that.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. It is. It's, again, you see people dragged in. People listening to this will be. We have a twisted. We have a. There's so many things wrong. There's so many things wrong with the way we're raised and the expectation that society has for us and what they tell us that we can achieve, versus how we're then told to get there. The two just don't marry up. And one of them is that we've erroneously associated being a nice person and liked with success. That I think if I'm nice and I think if I'm liked, I erroneously believe that is my path to success. And it's not. It's about that's about being nice, right? And liked. And in business, we've erroneously believed that if I am firm and I'm fair and I'm to the point and I'm holding you accountable and I'm saying something that you might not like, but it's in your best interest, and it's at risk of you disliking me, I've been allowed to believe that that's wrong. And I would go out on a limb that if people are still listening to this podcast an hour in, 10 minutes in, 99% of people's businesses is failing because of that they are nice and they go into their office and the metric of success is I want to be liked and I want to be nice. And if I keep being nice and I keep being liked, eventually I'll get my rewards. And the newsflash is it's the complete opposite. I had to realize quite quickly that I could be firm, I can be fair, I can be candid, I can be straight to the point, I can be assertive. This is what I want, but I can still be a very good guy. It's up to you how you associate me with that. I could be respectful. I can be a wonderful father. I can be a wonderful friend. I can be a wonderful husband. I can be a wonderful boss. And I can still be assertive and firm and clear and direct. And whether you like me for that is nothing to do with me. But I realized not early enough that that was the path to success, and it was contrarian to how everybody else around me actually behaves. Their first metric of success is how will I be perceived as to what I do here, rather than what result will this cause when I say this, when I ask for this, when I demand this, when I tell somebody this isn't good enough. I had a little bit of a rant today before you come on with a couple of people. I was on 2 members of my staff for an hour. This is what I need. This is how it has to be done. This isn't good enough. Now at the end of the call, I'm still very polite and I'm thank you and all of these other things. It doesn't mean I'm an ass. It means I'm trying to achieve something and I know the way to get there is not by being liked. And ultimately, at the end of the day, on a night, you and I both know when we've shied away from a conversation. You and I both know when we've bottled it. The bottle job, right? It's a big phrase in England at the minute with all the Man United shit going on and Chelsea, whatever. The bottle job, right? Did we bottle it? Did we shy away? And if you did, How do you feel about yourself if you shied away from that conversation? How do you sleep? You're becoming a fraud every single night that you go to bed. How is that more important? How is what somebody thinks of you more important than when you go to bed on a night and you know you're a fraud? What life are we living? What society are we building when somebody goes to bed on a night fraudulently is more interested in what the next door neighbor, the employee or the employer or whoever thinks of them than what they think of themselves? If somebody can give me an answer to that, like, how is it more important? It isn't. That is the problem. That people give a shit more about what others think of them than they do themselves. And when you get that self-belief, you start making the decisions and you start making all of your the progress. And big decisions to you, boom, are small now. But to somebody else behind you, oh, I'm still dealing with that one. I'm still dealing with the price rise one. I'm still dealing with the staff one. I'm still dealing with the how do I feel about this thing, and I can't move on. Meanwhile, Will come back on this podcast in 2 years. It'll be 5 million followers, 3 books, a fucking world tour that you're getting paid VIP and flying out on a private fucking jet for, with a conversation with some company in Britain that wants to license your whole fucking thing for millions that you'll get a royalty off for the rest of your life. And they go, oh, well, that's all right for Will. Oh, that must be because it's because he's from Farnborough. It's because he's from Farnborough. Farnborough, they've all got money in Farnborough, and it's just different down there. It's like, fuck off. Like, it's because you didn't do jack shit for the last 5 years, and he did. That's the fucking reason he's living the life he's living. Amen to that. Anyway, on that note, Will, I think you're absolutely amazing. And just before I go, I'm going to give a shameless plug. A lot of the stuff we've just spoke about there is in the Extraordinary Achievement book. If you're just tuning into the podcast, a book I wrote just before Christmas. Check it out. It's on Amazon, Extraordinary Achievement, or you can go to exabook.com if you want to get it from me. It's also on Amazon. Lots of these principles, if you like, that we're talking about for enjoying life and becoming the best person that you can, and really getting to that next level of success in business and life, over and above just the finance stuff, the tasks, the leverage, the high value activity, all of that stuff is in that book as well. So make sure you check it out. Well,
it's a great book. It's a great book. Yeah, read it in 2 or 3 days when we were on holiday last year in Morocco. Super. Yeah,
fantastic.
Loved it.
Good.
Yeah.
Right, see you in London. A couple of weeks out, 7th, 8th, 9th of June, we are in London. There are many more like Will that we've built a community that I'm very proud of. I keep saying it. It's almost like my extended family, my kids, and please take that the right way. That's not in a condescending way. But we've created a wonderful community. If you're in or around Britain and you want to come and sample it, head over to ppmliveuk.com. There are many, many people like Will that I can introduce you to. We've got wonderful stories to share, great lessons to share with you and help you as well. So if you're sitting on the fence a little bit, terrified perhaps of booking that seat for the very first time and entering the room, which I get, head over to ppmliveuk.com. We'll see you in London 7th, 8th and 9th, or New Jersey 29th and 30th, polgoff.com/Jersey. Will, where can people, what's the website and Instagram, YouTube handle for people to check this out?
Just search HT Physio. I don't know what the handles are. Just it will come up.
I love this. You're the second business owner in succession that said to me they don't know their Instagram or Twitter handles. That's when you know you're doing well. I love it. HT Physio, what's your YouTube? Is that the same? HT Physio on YouTube?
Yeah, HT Physio. Yeah, it will come up. Yeah,
HT Physio on YouTube. Check him out and follow him on Instagram, Facebook, and all of the rest, whatever you get your social stuff. HT Physio. And the book, where can I get the book from?
Thriving Beyond 50 is on Amazon. You might want to wait until the 1st of October, get the updated and expanded.
How about this?
Make the publisher happy.
How about this? Why don't we buy both? Come on, Will. You've still got a little bit of learning to do when it comes to selling.
Thinking too small. I know.
Will, just see, you still need me. You're not there yet, Will. You still need me. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna buy the first one. I'm going to pay for that, and then we're going to get excited because of the first one in anticipation of the second one. See the difference?
Yeah. Bring it to PPM. I'll sign it. What
there you
about
go. Now we're talking.
Hey.
Now we're talking, Will. There we go. Own it, dude. Own it. Brilliant. Anyway, fantastic. I think you're doing absolutely amazing. Well done. All right. Thanks, Will.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Thank you. Cheers, Paul. Thanks.